So I've made over 18 grand in a single month running a content agency working with local service businesses. And I did it without sending hundreds of cold outreach messages, without begging for referrals, or without having to, spend all my savings on paid ads. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Instead, I was getting on calls with people who had consumed my content, were pre-sold, and they ended up thanking me for the opportunity to work with me instead of the other way around. But it wasn't always like this. I'd been in the video agency space for the past 4 years, and for most of my journey, I was sending hundreds of cold outreach messages and just selling my soul to these clients just for a couple of grand, only to struggle with inconsistent income from month to month. It wasn't until I started creating content to, pre-sell and nurture these prospects before they ever spoke with me that I started, landing multiple 6K paid in full clients every single month. And in this video, I'll teach you exactly what content you should be posting to attract premium clients who have the budget and are willing to pay you premium prices. All right, so I've got the Miro board out. This is going to be a raw, unedited video, kind of just breaking down my story, like how I got to this point in the first place, why you need to be posting content in your marketing and using it for your marketing. And then lastly, the content flywheel, so you know what content to create for your business to, again, pre-sell people and build up that trust that you need to be able to get clients. So to make money with videography, you have to be able to get tangible results, right? Gone are the days where you can just create a nice looking video and sell it for 10 grand, right? You have to be able to get outcomes with your videos. People don't just buy a video because they want a nice looking video. There's always a reason behind that, whether that's building their brand, whether that's getting them, leads, sales, jobs. You need to be able to ideally make your clients money so that it justifies these higher prices that you're charging and they stay on with you longer. Okay. So when I was working with the local service businesses, one of the big things that, the market had told me they wanted is higher quality leads. They were working with like Google agencies, SEO agencies, Yelp agencies, and all of these agencies were getting them low quality leads, which meant they weren't getting enough buyers and customers and sales. So their business was not doing so well because they didn't have these high quality leads. So I came in there and said, I'll get you high quality leads by using videos and videography, right? I wasn't just saying, I'll get you, I'll create videos for you, right? Because that's not something that really interests them. You have to be able to not only market and say you'll be able to get the results, but actually get them results, right? You can say you'll, get them $1 million, but if you don't actually do it and they don't believe you, well, it's not going to do anything. Okay. And a question you have to ask yourself is how do you expect to get your clients results if you're not even using content to get clients yourself, right? I used to see a ton of people doing this with with cold outreach. They would, that's how I was taught initially, but they'd reach out to these clients and ask them to hire them for video services. So, guaranteeing leads or whatever their coach told them to guarantee. But to be honest, it wasn't adding up. It's they're using cold outreach to get clients while they're saying they're going to get their clients results with videos, right? So you should honestly be using the system that you're teaching or that you're implementing to your clients that you're using for yourself, right? It doesn't make any sense. If you're saying these videos are going to get you results, but you're not even using videos in your own marketing, well, the math isn't mathing here, okay? So by learning this system for yourself, you also become valuable to clients, right? Because when you can actually get your clients leads, high quality leads, and which results in sales, well, then they're going to stay on with you longer, right? That's when you get, 3, 6, 12-month contracts because you're a necessity. They can't just cut you, right? They're going to keep you on even if you're not the best to work with, which you should be. You should be obviously building up relationships with your clients. But even if you're not the best to work with, a lot of times they'll keep you on because you're a key part of their business. You're actually generating their revenue. And by them cutting you, they're going to take a loss in the business. So that means longer retention, retainer contracts, which ultimately means more money. Okay. So this system is going to make you more money, but it's also going to make your clients a lot more money. Okay. Now the same ads and funnels that used to work 5 years ago, they don't work these days, right? The market has become so much more saturated. Everyone and their uncle is running, Facebook ads to their marketing agency, whether that's, again, Google, SEO, videography, Facebook ads. It's just become so much more saturated. And because of that, the market is more sophisticated, right? They're interviewing more agencies. They're checking out your profiles. They're looking at your Instagram. They're looking to see if you have YouTube, LinkedIn, and they're doing more research before they make an impulse buy. Okay, so gone are the days where you can throw up a Facebook ad and then have a client within the next day because you just ran them straight to a book call page and close them, right? You can't really do that anymore because the market is a lot more sophisticated because of the saturation. Okay, now just a little bit of background on me. Like, I started an agency when I was 15 years old. I dropped out of school when I was 16, so I first picked up a camera, just kind of found I enjoyed it, the artistic side of it, but then I realized the gear is expensive. I started seeing all these Peter McKinnon, Parker Walbeck videos and wanting to get all this gear, but I couldn't afford it. So at that point, I started looking into ways to make money with videography, which led me to buying a course or a program with like one-to-one mentorship, and that led me to drop out of school when I was 16. I couldn't see the value in school when I was seeing all these other guys in the program I was in making loads of money. So at the time, I was hungrier than ever for money. I wanted to prove to myself and to my parents that it was the right call, because like, much respect to my parents letting a 16-year-old kid drop out of school to go try and make money with videography, right? They used to say like, there's the starving artist, right? It was known that a lot of creators and artists don't really get paid. So for me, it was there was a lot of drive to actually make this work. So when I first started, I spent the first year, probably a year and a half, learning these, to be honest, outdated methods, things like cold outreach and just like trying to get more and more referrals. But honestly, none of these were sustainable. Like, most of my day-to-day was spent either sending looms or sending cold DMs. So these were just some pictures of like, the actual outreach messages I was sending just for proof to show I was actually like in the trenches doing these cold outreach messages. So I would like I would scrape the leads on like I would pay for a software. It was called Rocket Reach, I think. And I would get their contact info from LinkedIn. I would save their image, print it, take a photo holding their photo as like a thumbnail to try and get them to open the email, and then record like a quick loom telling them how they can improve their video marketing. And side note, when I was doing this, I was kind of just like faking it. I didn't know what videos did what. I didn't know how to use videos to get results. And that just goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, when you understand how to use videos to get clients for yourself, you also understand how to get results for your clients. So it becomes better and better. But here, I wasn't practicing what I preached. I was just sending random loom videos, kind of just like, talking nonsense because I didn't know what I was doing. And honestly, it did not go very well. So when I did occasionally like hop on a call from the cold outreach I was doing, I got like probably, like I said, 5 total. Like, it was not a lot. And for context, I was sending like 30 to 50 of these looms a day, right? So tons of volume. It was like a fraction of the people actually hopped on a call. I only got like a few responses. So I did that for a good 6 months. It wasn't like I just dipped my toes in it for a week. Like, that's what my coaches were telling me to do. I'd seen a few people seeing results with it, so I just like doubled down on that. But to be honest, even when I did book a few calls, I got like I said, 5 total. They had the frame every single time they'd hop on the call. As in, I had done all this work to just get them on a call, but they were basically, I was having to sell myself on why they should trust me, versus an inbound call when they book on my calendar, when they've watched my content. It's a whole different dynamic. Instead of me selling them on why they should even trust me, when it's inbound, they already trust me. They booked on my calendar, and now I have the frame and I'm there to help them rather than sell them on why they should trust me. Okay. So that was definitely a big problem. And I got pretty down because I thought I was just terrible at sales, but the problem was this was all outbound and they had no reason to trust me. So it wasn't until I started creating content and running paid ads that my business actually took off because of that trust factor, right? These were inbound leads now coming in. They had, already built up that trust from my content, and they'd booked on my calendar instead of me booking on theirs. So it was a completely different dynamic. So after I started making some of these changes, I booked out my calendar with like 4 to 6 calls a day, and I was speaking to warm inbound leads, which is, again, a completely different sales dynamic. So here's just a screenshot of like one of the days on my calendar. These were all intro calls with, business owners. Okay. So I want you to think back to the last time you actually bought something over $3,000, right? Chances are you probably didn't buy it directly off of an ad or a cold DM. Actually think about it. Have you ever bought something from a cold DM? Probably not, right? Or even directly off an ad. You've probably seen lots of ads where you just scroll past it. More likely than not, you probably saw an ad, you opted in for a free training, you watched their YouTube video or a VSL, a video sales letter. You followed them on Instagram. You got put on an email sequence with tons of call to action sending you to their YouTube channel or to book a call. Then you waited a few months while consuming their free content, reached a breaking point where you're just like, okay, I actually need help with the problem I'm facing. This guy's been posting tons of free content. I'm curious what he has. And then you book in and then they sell you, right? Obviously, it's never exactly like this. Well, it could be, but more often than not, it's something closer to this. It's lots of different touch points. It's lots of content that's warming you up first rather than just going from an ad to a booked call, because that sale is obviously going to be a lot harder because they still don't trust you as much. So Google came out with something, you've probably heard of it, the 7-11-4 rule. So they did tons and tons of research on how people buying patterns, like what it takes to get someone from never having heard about you to being willing to trust you and pay you money. And what they came up with is the 7-11-4 rule. So on average, the average buyer takes 7 hours of content. So they need to consume 7 hours of your content over 11 different touch points across 4 different platforms. Okay. So that became the average. So at this point, you need to start thinking like, okay, if that's the case, again, this is Google, like a massive company. They have tons of data on this. So it's not me saying it, that's Google. You should now be asking yourself, okay, how do I get 7 hours of content? How do I get someone who's never heard of me to consume 7 hours of my content? And when you can do that, at that point, it's going to be so much easier to sell them rather than a cold DM booking to a call and just trying to sell them on why they should trust you. Okay. So this is huge. So if you can start creating content that builds up that trust, ideally over, 11 different touch points, and to get 11 different touch points, you again have to, it's going to be a longer sales process. So you have to be hitting them with different, platforms, and we'll be talking about which platforms you need to be using in a second, but keep that in mind, right? It's so important to be able to hit those different touch points, but also just build up that watch time so that they actually trust you and are ready to buy. So this isn't just like a 2-week process. Again, this can take multiple months, multiple years sometimes, right? There have been people that I've been watching, like a good example of this is Hamza on YouTube. I've been watching his content for the past 2 years, and it wasn't until like a week ago that I decided to buy one of his courses just to see what he had. But over 2 years, he'd been nurturing me, and at that point, he'd already built up that trust, and I was willing to make that purchase. And that's basically been every purchase. Like I've invested over $25,000 into coaching and mentorship to learn what I know today. And every single time, like there's not one exception, every single time they've been posting on YouTube, they've been posting, consistent Instagram content, specifically YouTube. That's the easiest way to get this, 7 hours of watch time in. Because if you want to get 7 hours of watch time in via like Instagram Reels, it's going to be a lot of Instagram Reels, but, with a long form YouTube video that's, 30, 45 minutes each video, it becomes a lot easier to knock down those 7 hours of watch time. Okay. So when you do this correctly, again, your sales calls become so much easier because you're not selling them on why they should trust you, if your videos are going to get them results, who you are, like who you've helped. Your content can do all of that. You create it once and then it does the selling for you. Otherwise, if you're not doing this, you're having to basically do everything on a sales call, and the chances of you doing that are a lot lower because you'll be handling objections, and most of the time you'll get so many objections that they just hop off the call and ghost you and never end up buying. Okay. And honestly, like I said here, we're in a trust recession. Like 8 out of 10 business owners have been burned by other agencies. I talk to so many local service businesses, so I can say this as a fact. Most of them have been burned by, most of the time it's a Google agency or like SEO or Yelp. Basically people promising them high quality leads or whatever they want, and they don't get results. So because of that, they're skeptical. There's a trust recession across not just local service businesses, by the way. This is happening across tons of different markets and industries, again, because it's just so saturated and anyone can kind of hop into this space and make a crazy guarantee. So again, you can't just throw up an ad and sign a client the next day anymore. Okay. So that, hopefully that kind of answers like why you should be posting content in the first place. Again, you have to build up that trust and you have to just get that time in. Like, again, think through the last time you bought something, it wasn't probably directly off of an ad, or it wasn't directly from a cold outreach message. Can it happen? Yes, but that's like 1%, right? There's this, 99% of the market that takes the time and the content to warm them up and to be able to sell them. Okay, so now that you know like why you should be posting content for your marketing and for your business, now we need to talk about like what you should actually be posting. So for the longest time, I had no idea what to post. I kind of knew I should be, building my brand, posting some content, but I didn't know what to post to actually get me, results and ultimately drive sales. Because if you're anything like me, you probably don't want to be in front of the camera. You probably hate talking to the camera. You don't want to, do that, which that was exactly how I was for the longest time. But honestly, I thought you had to be like an influencer. You had to get tons of views. You had to grow your following. But like I was able to scale to these massive numbers with less than 3,000 followers. It was like 2,000 something. And honestly, most of those weren't even business owners. So I could have done it with like, 300 or so followers. So it's not about the followers. It's not about the views. It's about creating the right content that actually gets people to buy from you. So some of the content that I found that works really well and kind of just teaching you like what content does what is what I'll talk about in this video. I'll obviously make different videos teaching you like how to create it, how to script it, and stuff like that. So the first one is Instagram ads. So I talked a little bit about like the cold outreach that I was doing. That was a form of like one-to-one marketing. I was having to manually scrape the leads and then record a custom Loom video or script a custom DM for them, reach out to them, and hope they book on my calendar. Versus Instagram ads, here it's basically one-to-many. You record the ad once, you throw it up on Instagram, you put some money behind it, and now it's doing that for you, 24/7, right? So you just put some money behind it, and it's not only reaching the right people, but it's also builds up a lot more trust, right? Are you more likely to trust someone who's talking to the camera in the style of like a video ad, or some random kid with no profile, with no content, sending you a message, a DM saying they're going to blow up your business in 90 days, right? Well, it's probably going to be the person with the content and the ad that you actually trust. So Instagram ads are a great way to generate attention, aka leads, and that's the first step in actually growing a business. If no one knows you exist, you're not going to be able to make any money. Now the next one is the Instagram Reels. So the purpose behind this is just to build up that credibility and that trust factor. Again, if people don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And again, understanding this for yourself also allows you to provide value to your clients, because this whole content flywheel is what you'll implement for your clients to get them results, right? For our clients, we create a handful of Instagram Reels to position them as an authority, build up trust, and showcase like why they're unique, how they're different. Because again, most service businesses, they're just like an outdated website, a name and a phone number on Google, right? So there's nothing that builds up trust and makes them stand out, versus hopping on Instagram, shooting content like Instagram Reels, speaking to the camera. That's going to go a long way in building up trust and credibility, making it so people want to buy from you. Now the same thing with the stories. That's again there to build up trust. Maybe you're on a shoot, you pull out your phone, shoot some behind the scenes, you post client results, testimonials, just build up that trust, keep people in the loop as to like what you're doing. But don't create this as like content for your friends. This is like you're creating this with the business owner in mind, for the purpose of getting them to actually buy your services. Okay. Now the VSL is one of the biggest things that you can do in terms of like content to sell. So if you're not familiar with a VSL, it's a video sales letter. Okay, so you're basically, the purpose of this video is to sell them on your system, to educate them on like what you do, who you are, and also to break limiting beliefs. A lot of local business owners don't know how content can actually get them results, how content can get them leads, why content will get them higher quality leads than just random Google ads, right? So by doing that in a VSL, you can pre-sell them and build up that trust and sell them on you before they ever speak with you. Because if you're not doing a VSL, then you're having to basically convey all of that information on a sales call. And when your VSL is 20, 30 minutes, you're having to add on 20 to 30 minutes to your sales call. And that's if you can explain it all on a sales call. Most of the time you're not. So by doing this, you record it once and then you're able to use it for all your prospects moving forward. Again, this is just another form of leverage. Same with the paid ads. You record it once and it's working for you 24/7. So anyone who books in with me is watching my VSL and they're getting nurtured. And think like looking back at every client I've signed over the past like 6 months, every single one of them, there's not a single one who didn't watch my VSL before buying. there were a few people who didn't watch it. They hopped on a call and they obviously didn't close because they hadn't consumed enough of my content to be comfortable trusting me and paying me money. So VSL is huge. If you want to see like what the VSL actually looks like, I have one for local service businesses. If you want me to send you that, just DM me on like Instagram. Just DM me the word like VSL, and I'll send that to you. So that's the VSL. That's huge. Generally, this is like anywhere from 3 minutes on the very low end. I've seen VSLs go up to like 2 hours, but mine was like 20 minutes, and it did a good job. Okay. Now another one is YouTube. So I was talking about the 7-11-4 rule. If you want to build up that trust and get that watch time in, it's going to be a lot harder to get that 7 hours of content consumed with something like Instagram Reels, right? These Instagram Reels, they make you look credible. They can kind of shift some limiting beliefs, but it's gonna be hard to really build up that trust with just a few Instagram Reels. Can it be done? Yes, but something I really wish I did more was YouTube, because my old coach told me I should start on YouTube like 3 years ago. Not the one who was teaching me cold outreach, a different one. But all that to say, I really wish I started on YouTube, because you're able to just build up that watch time and show them like, hey, you're actually someone who can get results, who they should trust, and who they should feel comfortable paying. So for YouTube, there's lots of things you can post. You can be doing like behind the scenes on shoots, so like have your friend follow you around and just show potential clients what it's like on a shoot, right? A lot of them have probably never hired a videographer, so they don't know like what to expect. So by showing them, you're going to build lots of trust and ultimately make it easier for them to buy from you. Okay, you can post case studies. So like successful clients, you hop on a Zoom call with them, or you film a video with them, kind of just breaking down their experience, the results that you got them. Another great way is to provide like value or education. So teaching them how they can create content, how they can do XYZ to grow their business, all within your specific niche. So there's lots of ways you can do this. A great one on YouTube right now that I was seeing is Luke Dobson. He's just started the YouTube game, but you can see he's posting content to sell people. It's not just like content to go viral. These videos, they get like 100 or 200 views, maybe 500 tops, but you're not going to watch that unless you're a local service business trying to grow. So these videos are huge, but if you can provide that value in your YouTube videos and make it long enough to start knocking out those 7 hours of watch time. Again, it's not always 7 hours, but the more watch time they can get, the more trust you're able to build with them through your content. It's just gonna be so much easier to sell them. Okay. Now the last one is an email sequence. So I started implementing this, and it just massively helped out with the sales process. Again, all these things work together. That's why it's a content flywheel. So it's not like I'm just doing Instagram ads with nothing else, or just doing YouTube with nothing else, right? They all work together, and they all have their specific purposes. That's kind of what I'm trying to show here, is like, the content and what it does best. But again, this is all a flywheel. It all works together. So the email sequences were great just for nurturing prospects, to show case studies, social proof. And when someone books in, a lot of times these email sequences are just kind of shoving this content down their throat in a sense. Because if they're going to book in, I'm hammering them with, hey, go watch this VSL. It's going to be helpful before a call. Hey, check out my Instagram, see some case studies, watch this, testimonial I did with, Braden, my client, whatever. So it's all working together, but generally in email sequence, I would do like 3 to 5 emails that they would receive before our call. Again, it was all automated, and that was just doing a lot of the nurturing for me. So all of these things working together went so far in just warming people up and pre-selling them before I spoke with them. So I was getting to the point where I was hopping on calls with people. They're like, yes, I watched all your content. You were saying, all these things like, followers don't matter. And I realized that, and that's why I booked in with you, because I know you understand XYZ, right? People would say stuff like that all the time on the calls, and that got to the point where I was able to close like multiple objectionless sales, because they'd already built up that trust through the content rather than me having to do it all on the sales call. Okay, so each piece of content, like I said here, plays a very different role. So understanding like all of these different content pieces and like what they do is going to be essential for growing your business, understanding it, and not only growing your business, being able to get results for your clients so they keep paying you. So it's just a win-win for everyone. So that's kind of the high-level overview of like why you should be using content. Hopefully you took some value from it. Again, that was me just kind of ranting and spilling what I've learned over the past couple years using content for my business. So if I could do one thing going back like 2 or 3 years, it would have been starting the YouTube channel and just posting more consistent content, because most of the time you're not always going to see it's not going to pay off. It's not like when you post a reel, you're going to get a client, right? Most of the time it's you post a few reels, and then it just, you build it up over time and it starts to compound. But like, don't expect this to get you a client tomorrow. That being said, if you just don't do it and you just keep putting it off because it's not going to get you a client tomorrow, like I did, unfortunately, for too long, that it wasn't until I started creating content that I started, again, seeing these results. So don't put it off. It might not pay you tomorrow, but it's going to be a necessary step to making sure you're getting consistent, high quality clients 3-6 months from now. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via Instagram. I do also have the school community down below, so if you want to get like one-to-one mentorship from me on how to get clients, how to run paid ads, how to create the right content, more in-depth, top link in the description. So that's it for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.